So joining us now is Sam P.K. Collins, and our education reporter. Sam, good to see you.
Likewise, likewise. Peace and blessings to you.
Yeah, so I mean, you've been out there. You know been covering schools ever since COVID started. Well, actually before that, and so this big day finally happened. The schools in DC, in the District of Columbia, opened on Monday. What's been your takeaway so far?
Definitely. So, charter schools for the most part have been opening in the weeks before Monday. DCPS just opened. It's what Bowser and Farabee likened to the Super Bowl. You know, opinions about the reopening run the gamut. You have parents who are very enthusiastic about bringing their children back. They just wanted to jump back in the ring, and they took every precaution possible to, you know, make sure that they were safe, from teaching about masking protocols, washing hands, things of that nature. But you also had other parents who were very concerned about the Delta variant and who are currently exploring ways to pull their children, if not pull their children out of school, but to explore virtual options. DCPS has a pathway through that. Bowser said as of last week that 150 parents or children have been signed up for the virtual option, but it's very stringent in the sense that you need a medical reason. So right now, a lot of parents and the State Board of Education has even jumped in to expand virtual options for public and charter school students. But you also have, you know, like I said, a lot of parents who are very enthusiastic about the year. They've seen their children suffer throughout the pandemic from just separation from their friends and just being holed up in the house. So, you know, safety is the #1 priority, and they're placing trust in their schools to, you know, make every step possible and, you know, keeping them safe.
Fantastic. I mean, this is it's a challenging time still, but you know, back to school always is a challenging time. It's just now that we have this other health crisis that we're dealing with. But, you know, I think one cheerleader for the opening of schools, it seems like they've got this pretty much under control, is Principal Rosado of Savoy Elementary School. I'm so glad that she's joining us, and I'm going to ask you now to take it away. Welcome, Principal Rosado. So good to see you.
Thank you for having me today.
Surely, surely. And so I'm going to step out and let you and Sam continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Very excited to have you here today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. You know, my first question for you, and, you know, once again, congrats, you know, for just reopening and bringing children back after 18 months. What's the climate like? What has it been like at school after 18 months being back in the building?
It's been amazing. My staff, my students, my parents are just, they're filled with joy. They're filled with excitement. There is this energy and buzz of our students being able to be with their other classmates and their peers. Our teachers who have been working virtually are excited to be back in the building amongst children. It is a positive atmosphere over here at Savoy.
Definitely. You know, and just speaking about that atmosphere, what have the conversations been about reacclimating students to in-person learning?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of different things prior to school starting to ensure that our students were getting that social emotional learning piece that was very important for coming back into a building after 18 months of being out. And so we spend time every morning for 30 minutes doing some community building in their classrooms. And so just as important as our reading and writing is, our social emotional learning block is just as important as we're bringing our kids back. So every morning they have 30 minutes to build community, build their friendships, and build trust with one another as we are navigating this unknown path.
Definitely. That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
I would like to learn more about that. What does that entail, you know, those 30 minutes?
Absolutely. So we do, we open up with our Savoy Creed. We have our breathing exercises that we are teaching our students tools as to how to regulate when they have emotions that are happy, sad, joyful, how to regulate those emotions with breathing techniques. And so we are also working on something called our zones of regulation. And so each color has a zone. And so you can be feeling angry. And so you're in the red zone. And so we talk about what does a red zone feel like and how we can work with one another and give each other tools when we're in a red zone. And it's okay to be in a red zone, but it's how we regulate that emotion is what we're teaching our students. Because as adults, we come in red zones to work sometimes too, but we know how to regulate that because we've been taught. And so we teach our students that as well. So it's called zones of regulation.
That's very cool. It sounds like something you're going to probably keep going for the rest of the year.
Absolutely, most definitely. And even our kids are already starting to talk the language after day 5. Some students are talking to one another saying, what zone are you in? Here's a tool you can use. And like they're talking to one another and teaching each other. So it's on day 5, it's been phenomenal. They're just absorbing everything we're giving them.
Definitely. Give thanks. You know, in regards to the teachers, what's it looking like for them? From my vantage point, it seems like they have a lot to balance between curriculum, student social, emotional learning, as well as being, you know, making sure that the safety requirements are carried out in the classroom and around them. You know, what are they feeling? What are their concerns? What are their hopes for the year?
So the biggest concern was coming in was how was I going to keep and ensure that they were going to be safe and bringing, going back home to their own families, how am I going to keep our students and staff safe? And so we did have our LSAT walkthrough and with our WTU as well. And we had about 10 members walk the building at the beginning of the year before school started to let them know, like, here are the things we put in place to ensure your safety as far as before students come into the building. We have our ask, look protocol with our school nurses. We do ask that our parents stay out of the building right now while we are trying to make sure that we're keeping staff and students safe. And our parents have been absolutely understanding about dropping off their children and not entering the building at this time, as we know we have COVID crisis. So they've been very understanding. And with those pieces, our teachers have been at ease. We make sure our students are wearing masks. We have our bathrooms are cleaned multiple times throughout the day. We have cleaning protocols throughout the building. We have air filters in every classroom. Our HVAC system is working. So we are actually in a great place. Our teachers were not as concerned as maybe in other places, but we actually had a great staff that understood where we were and we're very happy with what we've been doing.
Definitely. You know, as far as communicating that to parents, what was the strategy during the summer?
So we sent out communication to our parents at the start of the year. Also, we gave our teachers the parent phone numbers in the summertime. So our teachers have been in contact with their students since July. And so parents hadn't heard from their students' teachers on the day 1. It was been in July they heard from their students' teachers. And so we have been communicating since the summertime. We had open houses for our parents so they can tour the building as well. We had multiple families come in, take a tour, ask questions. And so we just really are big on communication before things happen.
You touched on a very important point in your answer, and I'm very curious about what part does community play post quarantine period, because parents were more involved, had more of a chance to be involved in the day-to-day over the last 18 months. How have you as a principal been able to maintain that now that children are back in school?
So I greet every child at the door when we come in. So I am outside already with my parents every morning. And so I am greeting them. I'm telling my parents, thank you for entrusting me and Savoy with their child here throughout the day. And so our parents, they love that relationship. And so they respect the idea that, we are out there amongst our community. We're there with the children. We are in classrooms. We are not an administration that sits in our office. We are out front. We're in classrooms. Our kids know us. All of our kids know who we are. And so our parents know who we are.
Cool. My next question, and I just want to thank you so far because you've been very detailed. I'm very curious, and I'm pretty sure the audience is as well, about the level of planning as a principal that goes into just making sure all trains run on time throughout the day. If you can just, give us a glimpse into what happens in the background, as far as the time dedicated to making all this happen.
Yeah, so the planning actually starts in around June. Even before that, when we're creating our budget, which was around February, we start the planning process. But really, at June, we hit the ground running. Our kids exit the building, and we start the planning for the next year. It is looking at all buckets that we are responsible for: academics, operations, funding. And so we just organize ourselves. Here is a list of all the things under each bucket that we have to address, and we just start plugging away through it. I have a phenomenal administration team. My assistant principal, Tyra Russell, she's been with me for several years now, and she's my right hand. And so together we just start digging away through the work. I also have staff members who are willing to work and volunteer over the summertime to help support the work that we're doing. So I had teachers coming in, and even though they don't have to, they come in and they help me plan out master calendaring. They help me plan out what's behavior management going to look like, what's our culture going to look like. So we just have staff who are 100% for the children, and they come in and volunteer over the summertime.
And as far as, communication with the central office, game plan like in that regard, how much instruction do you get from them? Do you get latitude? If you can explain that.
Sure. For me, and I'm speaking for Savoy, our central office team has been amazing. Each cluster is assigned a central office team member who supports attendance, academics, operations, and they are in touch with me on a daily basis, checking in, especially in the first week of school. Hey, Rosado, do you need anything? From the chancellor all the way to my instructional superintendent, who is phenomenal. We have worked as a cluster really closely, and the design of having one person from central office connected to a cluster has really been helpful. And so I always know who to contact, and they're always available.
That's really cool. It's really cool.
We're fortunate. We're very fortunate.
And it sounds like communication is key. Just following systems, things of that nature. Very curious to learn about your vision as principal for the school year. It just started, of course, but what are your hopes for your students, your staff, and teachers?
One is to keep everybody safe, and to really the biggest piece right now is through COVID, ensuring that we are keeping to all of the mask mandates. We are, using all the sanitizer. We're keeping our social distance. That's the future, making sure that we do not have a health crisis here at Savoy. That's first and foremost, but then also just having joy at Savoy. We always tag the word Savoy joy here. And that really means a lot, where I want my children to want to come to school, to want to learn, because it's fun, it's engageful, and it's something that we're doing because it's going to help us in the future. That's my goal. My students to want to be here.
And, how do you go about maintaining that balance? I can only imagine when we're talking about masking protocols and always reminding students, where does the joy fit in that at the end of the day?
Yeah, our students understand, and I was really surprised how much of our students from kindergarten on the way to 5th grade understand the importance of mask wearing. So it really hasn't hindered the work that we're doing here. They understand it, and we're still able to do our learning. They're still able to talk and communicate. We just have our mask on, but it hasn't hindered the joy at all.
I like that. I really, really like that, and I think that's a pretty positive note to end on. Principal Rosado, just thank you so much for your time and all that you're doing. Many blessings to you and your community.
Thank you. And please stay safe out there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.